Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to the EnergieGal podcast. It's so exciting to have you along for our show today, where it's our intention to create a safe space of curiosity, compassion, and courage on this journey that we are on that's a freaking adventure. We hope that we create a transformational conversation for you. My name is Lisa, and for 33 years I was a personal fitness trainer and loved every moment of it. In the past few years, I have found myself dipping my big toe in more of an esoteric body, mind, soul kind of feel. So I guess, I don't know, maybe getting to be closer to 60 and maybe being a grandmother at some point kind of makes me wax a little poetic and nostalgic, and I wonder what's it all about. You know, this whole journey I've had in my life has always been, who am I? Who am I? And I've had this revelation lately that who I am is a little bit of everybody out there. And so I have been insatiably curious about getting to know the people out there and their stories, because I find that as I get to know someone and their story, I get to know a little bit more about myself. And so that's what this podcast is all about. Well, I couldn't be more excited to share with you this person right here. I only met her just a little while ago, but I have heard about her from a distance. It's been all good, and there's been this common frequency between the two of us. And so I was so excited when we finally connected and have had a chance to have some conversations. Her name is Julian Pierce. Now, you're married.
I am, but I
you
did
still
keep
go
my last name.
Oh, did you? All righty.
Yes.
Well, she is a local businesswoman, and she is an acupuncturist, of which I know very little about, so I can't wait for her to unpack to us what that is. But she has a fantastic story, I am sure, and I just wanted to create a platform for her to be able to share herself with us. So welcome, and thank you for coming on the show, Jewel.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
I
having
love
me.
the name Jewel.
Thank you. So actually, it is my nickname. My name is Julian, but most people do call me Jewel, so that is.
Now, Julian, my son is not going to be happy about this, but I named my middle son, my last son, my fourth son, his middle name is Julian.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
I know a lot of people get confused because it is a male name. It's more commonly a male name, at least how mine is spelled. And so whenever I say Julian, everyone's like, Julianne? I'm like, no, it's
just Julian.
Yep.
And his was named after my mom, whose name was Julia. And so when she passed, I wanted to honor her. It was Julian. And so he said, Mom, why'd you name me a girl's name? I'm like, it's not, babe. But are you nicknamed after anybody or?
No. So my aunt used to call me Jewel, and so I just kind of stuck with that. And I do think as a child growing up, having a male name was uncomfortable to me. Even though it sounds like a feminine name, it actually is a male name. So I used to just vibe better with Jewel, and now I don't care really. It's preference,
whatever.
But
exactly.
Yep.
Very, very cool. So just thumbnail, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am freshly married.
Yay!
Yes. If we're talking personal stuff, so I have a twin sister, which a lot of people
I
don't
did
know
not
about.
know that.
Yep. So that's a
I
big
thought she
one.
looked a lot like you.
Yes. Yep. So twin sister, and then she actually has two twin boys of her own. So
She ended up having twins?
yes, twins.
Oh
So-
my gosh.
Yep.
Watch out, girl.
I know, right? I know, yes. Hopefully just one. But yeah, so I have a cat, and just honestly just running a business. So that's a lot of life right now.
And I mean, getting married, oh my God, it's not even been a year, has it?
No, so June 24th was our date.
So hardly 6 months yet.
Yeah.
I remember the first year that we were married was, it was big energy. So it was just getting to know somebody, and it was kind of exciting.
Yeah, I know. I do actually feel like we've been married a lot longer. Like just the other day, someone was asking me about our honeymoon, and I already couldn't remember where we had went, and he was like, didn't you just get married? And I was like, it feels like it's been forever though. Like the two of us are just very good together, so I feel like on a soul level we've been together in the past. So I think that for us, like, it's just the freshness. It's interesting.
It's funny because you can see just by looking at your pictures, like I was perusing a little bit of your wedding pictures, and I mean, the joy, it's manifest. And I happen to know Rebecca, and she was telling me the wedding day and how there were some snafus, but she said
Yeah.
Jewel was it was like, I'm here to marry my best friend, so there's just
Yeah.
nothing that's going to upset me.
Absolutely
It's all
not.
going to be good.
Yeah, no.
So there
it
is
was just
something.
meant to be fun.
Yeah.
Low key. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a day, let me tell you.
Now, are you the older twin or the younger?
I'm older by a minute, so.
Just
that's not-
1 minute,
Well,
huh?
she had a C-section, so.
Oh, wow, that is so intriguing to me. Well, I want to get to acupuncture at some point because I've never experienced, though I'm big into energies, I get that. So I'm excited to hear what you have to unpack because then you've got kind of a scientific point of view on it also. So
Yes.
it's exciting for me. But I want to back up a little bit and find out a little bit more about you so I can find out a little bit more about me. What are you most excited about right now?
So currently just a couple things like career-wise that at the moment, I'm not going to really talk too much about that. What some changes could potentially be happening, but that is something I really am looking forward to. And then, just house hunting and hopefully one day finding a home. So those are the two things I'm mainly focused on right now. So just career and a home. So I feel like I'm more for a home at the moment, just manifesting what I would really enjoy, just like a nice outdoor space. And so those things are fun just to kind of create in the mind and see what will happen in the next few months. So
I don't know why I'm asking because this is off script, but what is one of your favorite things about your husband?
gosh, everything. But honestly, his kindness. He is like the most soft-hearted person ever. He's just very thoughtful and kind, genuine, like the most genuine. Like honestly, so, and it kind of actually makes me emotional, but like my vows, I talked about how he is an angel on earth, and I absolutely mean that.
Wow. That feels so refreshing.
Yes,
Yeah, that'll be forever.
I believe that.
Yeah. So intriguing because when someone said to me, what is it that you love the most about your husband? I said, he's kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kindness is in some ways underrated. And, we've got this slogan that was big back a few years, if you can be anything, be kind. But truly,
Yeah.
how underrated that is. There's something very magical about being kind.
Yep. I definitely admire him for that, for sure.
Wow.
Yep. Like, I think I'm a nice person, but he just has me beat for sure. So actually what was interesting is when we first got together, it seemed like these weird obstacles would happen where it was like the universe was showing me how good of a guy he was. Like even just someone needing help with pushing their car on the side of the road. Or one time we were driving on the thruway and someone's trailer had kayaks on it and it detached right in front of us.
Oh.
And he pulled over. This is when we were dating. And he pulled over, got out on the side of the road of the thruway to help them. And I remember sitting in the car going, who is this guy? Like, who is he? It was just crazy. So he has not changed at all. And he kept telling me, like, this is who I am. And I kept thinking, like, okay, when is this going to stop?
Yeah,
like,
this
you're
will
just
wear
faking.
off.
Right.
Yeah.
But
okay, I'm
absolutely
impressed.
not.
We're good.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but nothing has changed, so.
What an amazing frequency to live in, to share space in.
Yep. I know it definitely keeps me at ease. Owning a business is very stressful, like we have talked about. And so I swear, like the universe delivered him to me because of the fact that I needed that, just the help, So.
Yeah, and I think that, the more that you come to understand how literally energetically sensitive you are, being around kind people, that there can't be anything else that if you're going to live with that,
Right.
kindness is going to be
Absolutely.
so important.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Cool. What has been a big challenge in your life?
Well, I guess it's situational, so it's definitely dependent on where I'm at that time period. So for example, going through grad school was a huge challenge, and it was the best challenge I ever went through, just pushing myself intentionally to graduate and get to where I wanted to be. And so that's a challenge in itself, and just I think always just pushing myself to be better and better all the time. So I worked on cruise ships, and just really being isolated away from my family, like that was a challenge. But I do believe like going through these periods is just whenever you are in discomfort, that's the only time you really grow. So I've definitely pushed myself in those ways. And then currently my new challenge is just kind of, I feel like where my business is, I feel a little bit stuck. And so for that, it is a challenge to me because I have not experienced this before. In the past, I was very creative in the sense that it was just like, I got a vision, I'm going to create that and make it happen. And I think the reason why, though, is ever since getting married, my visions have just kind of changed, where it's like, well, maybe that's not what I'm creating at this time. It's more family life. So I think, honestly, the challenge at the moment is more of just change in myself. You know, so just seeing like who I used to be compared to who I am now, how my interests have changed, the motivation is different, where it's, you know, basically more targeted too. So it's just, I think it's more of an internal challenge where it's like you can let that go. Like, don't compare, you know, all of that is still me, but it's just in a different way now. So, yeah.
How insightful that we do grow and change. I mean, that there's the opportunity in the challenge to be able to say, okay, this is challenging. What has shifted, and what do I do with that?
Right. Yep. So I think it's just more of trusting the process and really just knowing, honestly, at the end of the day in life, nothing matters. But I've always been like the kind of person that just like wants to do things to matter. And it's like, but does any of that really matter though? Is really just family? You know, that stuff matters. So for me, it's just a shift in mindset, and like, you know, wow, like, you know, before the business was my priority, and now I'm like, you know, maybe a family is priority. So those things have just been challenging to me, just accepting like this is different and it's okay.
So it's almost like you don't, I notice that you say, I push myself into, you know, in challenge, in that I see it as an opportunity for me. This obstacle is an opportunity for me to introspect and be in a place of growth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love the way you use the word push. I push myself, like, you know, I gird my loins, I stand strong, and I go, come on, rather than it's almost like, you know, like forcing yourself to stay the way it was, and I'm going to move this situation to be what I think it should be. It's
right.
It's like in some ways you hold loosely to some of this other stuff,
right,
and stay strong in understanding that at the end of the day, it's family,
right,
and then see what happens around there.
Right. At the end of the day, it's all a choice. So how you mentioned, you know, pushing yourself instead of like staying. I feel like if I don't want to do something, or if I do want to do something, you know, not doing something is definitely going to bring me internal chaos. Like I just won't feel good. So I consider myself very free flowing in the world, where, you know, wherever life takes me, I'm not going to just be hesitant, because at the end of the day, for one, I'm not growing, but for two, like life is way too short. So making changes, making sure that they align with who I am at that time. So I think I'm in a transitional period right now, and that's the challenge. It's like, okay, so now I'm married, and you know, so how we were talking about my husband, like I never once thought of myself as ever even getting married. So that to me was a big change. And then
that is a big change.
So now, right now, considering children, so it's like those are the things that it's like an internal reflection, where I'm not unhappy with it by any means. It's just new and different for me. So those are challenging things that maybe some people just, you know, they're born and they feel like I'm meant to be a mother. I never had that. Yeah.
So it's almost like there's this new aspect of you emerging, and you're allowing it. So there's a difference, I'm hearing you say, between pushing myself to do something and forcing myself to do something.
Yeah, definitely not forcing. I do think the difference in words, there's, pushing myself more in the sense of like, I know that I'm scared to do this, like going on cruise ships, working as an acupuncturist, going to school and not knowing anyone there, like starting a business, not knowing if it was going to succeed, like pushing myself to do things that I wanted to do, whether or not they would work out was one thing, but also just not knowing if I could actually do it. So forcing myself, definitely not. So when I talk about children, I don't mean there's any force behind that. It's actually just more of like, wow, I actually do want this, and like that's just new to me. So it's just, my mind has really changed with like, instead of thinking so much about the business, it's like, okay, so I'm doing this because at some point I do now want a family. And so for me, that's just a challenge because it's so different. Like it's new to me, that's for sure.
It's almost like the butterfly saying, okay, these wings are really cool, I just have no freaking clue how to use them.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes.
I went through the transformation, I went through the alchemy, I went through this, metamorphosis, but I just don't know how to use these new things,
Right.
So
Yes.
very interesting, so insightful.
Well, thank you.
My gosh. So you mentioned this whole idea of like being on a journey and there being a purpose behind it. Do you like, have you always kind of felt that there's something that's going on here?
Yeah, I just feel like it's an intuition. Like I am not huge into religion, but I do consider myself a spiritualist, but even that kind of found me along my path. I think I was very unconscious for a long period of time, where I think I got to the age of like 27, and that was pivotal for me, where I went through my own health issues, and then the energetic aspects, those sorts of things kind of came into my life. And so from there, though, I feel like I do a lot of introspection, and I definitely analyze quite a bit. And I feel like when you look back, it's like chapters. So this chapter closed, this chapter closed, and it's, to me, it's almost like a game. Like life is a game, just kind of getting to that next level and just seeing like how I can overcome that next struggle and getting to where I feel like I should be, even if it's not, universal. Like maybe there is no need to do these things, but sometimes I feel like I have to, just
God, you're so...
like a video game.
I was going to say, it sounds like a video game.
Yeah, it's just one step, and then that chapter closes, next close.
And it really jazzes me how you say, in some ways, nothing really matters. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's you playing a video game. If you win, you lose. Who's to say? It's a game. But at the same time, there's also the experience. And if perchance, and I don't know this to be true, but it's been starting to resonate with me, that if we are like this consciousness, this God consciousness, waking up to remembering that that's what we are, then it is kind of exciting to say, okay, so what's it like to be here with skin on? That's kind of exciting.
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yep, I feel like that's where the fun comes in. Like life is meant to be fun because it's our job for one, we have a human responsibility to take care of ourselves, but then it's like, what can you create while you're here?
Right. Yeah. Just for the adventure of creating it.
Right.
And then the thing I love about that is, at the end of the day, being someone myself who's come out of perfectionism, is that, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? You can't get it wrong or right.
Yeah.
It's, did you throw yourself into the experience? And if you did, that's it, man.
Right.
You got it.
Exactly. I always say to people, there is no right or wrong. It's really just making a decision, and then obviously living with whatever consequences.
Right. There are consequences.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. 27 is when your Saturn return is, between your 27, 28, 29. It's usually quite pivotal for people.
Oh, okay.
So that would line up. Yeah.
That worked for me.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote or book?
So my favorite quote, I don't even know who actually wrote it. It's just literally, it's you are entirely up to you. So I don't know who created that, but I always like to remind myself, like, you are entirely up to you. So for me, I just feel like that resonates, and I just, again, it comes back to human responsibility. So whatever you choose, whatever you create, like, that's up to you. So That's my favorite quote. And then my favorite book is by Mike Dooley. And it's
he's awesome.
Manifesting Change was the first book that I started reading when I was going through my own health issues. And that really just changed my mindset about everything that I thought and feeling and creation, manifesting.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. You are entirely up to you. You know, Mike would like that.
Oh.
Mike would like that that quote also, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, it's funny because I have all these journals over here that I wrote, and I wrote these while I was like knee deep in listening to Mike Dooley, reading his books, the whole thing. He just jazzed
cool.
me.
Wow.
And so I was like, I just had a season of like 3 months in the summer where I was just like, these things were pouring out of me. 30-day journals and just the whole idea of being introspective. And I thought, well, journaling is always something that I do on a regular basis. And then I used to always throw them out. But I know, I know my friend is like, well, why would you throw them out? And I'm like, well, because, you know, what do you do them after? And she was like, you go back and you look at them.
Yeah.
And so I have started to save them just so that you're aware.
Very nice.
And it is kind of cool because there'll be times I look and I think, I wonder what was going on during this time.
Right.
And so I'll look back and I'll be able to see my little bit of a journaling and be like, oh, wow, interesting.
This is kind of a side note, but if you think about Facebook years ago, just even getting the memories of what I used to write, and I'm like, oh my goodness,
summer cringe,
like so embarrassing. Yeah, so that kind of made me think of that, where I'm just like, oh goodness, yes. I have definitely grown up, that's for sure.
Oh my God, the one that came up for me, I think it was either yesterday or today, said, I'm having a cup of tea and thinking about taking the kids sledding.
Aw, that's
and I'm
adorable.
Like, oh my gosh, that must have been a long time ago because all of my kids are between 24 and 34 now, years old. So, but I was like, oh, that was a good memory.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah.
So the thing that I like about that quote, you are up to you, that sort of thing. Is that how?
Yeah, you are entirely up to you.
Is that one thing for me that I struggled in that was familial, that was generational, was this lack mentality, this victimhood way of thinking about things, that there's always somebody to blame. I'm always being the victim. There's always a bully. And I mean, it was so profuse and profound, like in every freaking single cell of my body for so long, and I couldn't even see it. It was like a fish trying to see the water.
Right.
It's in the water and it ingests the water. So how do you see the water?
Right.
So when I finally started to wake up to my own victimhood mentality, man, I just had zero tolerance for it. I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm not succumbing to that. And I really like that quote, that you are entirely up to you. And there was a quote that I came across because I would be like, yeah, but the things that happened to me, you know, that they're why I am the way I am. And the quote said something like, blaming someone is not the same thing. You are not at blame for what happened, but you are responsible for what happened. And I thought, okay, so I'm not to blame for what happened when this happened when I was a kid, which was awful, but I am responsible for what I do with that here and now.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And it's the most empowering place to be.
I was just going to say, when you start blaming others, you're just giving up your power at that point and saying, like, they made me feel this way. They did this to me. But realistically, like, is that what happened? Or is it the thought behind what they did that you don't agree with? And so for that reason, you act the way you do, eat how you do, you know, live your life the way you do. So again, it just comes back to self-responsibility. What other people do is unfortunately their decision, not unfortunately, but still it's their decision and we cannot control that. So it's just, you know, maturity, growing up, realizing like those things happened because of decisions, and what you choose to do after that is up to you.
Yeah. I think that it can be a little more challenging if you are experiencing victimhood due to, you know, you're less than, say, 12 or 13 years old, or definitely less than 7 years old, where you just don't understand and there's such a wide open space. You're still in theta brain waves, and you've had these things happen. And because as a child, you will not make your caretakers wrong, you will make yourself wrong. So now you've grown up and your entire countenance is built upon this faulty piece of rock that is disintegrating slow but sure, because it's not the truth, it's not a good foundation, that there's something innately wrong with you yourself.
I know.
And so, but you're still responsible to working through that. But until you can see that you came to conclusions that no longer help you, right?
So I guess then, in a sense, we should also say that that quote is definitely better for people who they have complete brain development, physically able to make choices, pay their bills, work, things like that. Like, when we're talking about children, obviously that's different. And so, yes, I totally agree with what you just said, because realistically, it's as an adult. So I have worked with patients who do unfortunately let themselves go because of previous trauma, but it's been so many years. And at that point, it's, you have the responsibility where you choose to do what you want at that point, because it's no longer happening to you. So if that's the case, get therapy.
Right. Come out of trauma response, because I was working with a woman the other day who was unpacking something to me that happened to her when she was 5 years old. And this woman is 50 years past 5 years old. And as I listened to her, it was like she was reliving it. She was there at that time, reliving it all over again. And so I stopped for a moment. I said, just so that you're aware, take a look around in the room. She looked around in the room. I said, take a look around, look at your body, did some breath work. I wrapped her in an Afghan, and I sat with her on the couch, and I said, you're not there anymore. You're not there anymore, and yet you still have a part of you that lives from that space.
Yeah.
Come out wherever you are, and come and play, heal that space.
Right.
And the healing literally was just her coming into mothering and nurturing that 5-year-old that thing happened to,
right, yeah.
and showing compassion to that 5-year-old.
Right.
And then she was like, wow, is it that easy? I said, the 5-year-old just needed compassion.
Right, yeah.
And now that 5-year-old can create a different story, which, because there really isn't time, will directly affect where you are right here, right now in your life, and the way you're manifesting things.
Well, I like too that you just brought her to the present moment just by saying, like, look at your body, take a breath, look around.
You're not there anymore.
Exactly. It's a memory, and it may be uncomfortable and traumatic depending on what it is, but again, it's still just what next?
Right.
Can you help others with that? What can you do to help yourself with that?
Well, first help yourself, for heaven's sakes. And if that's all you do, you'll have done the world a huge service.
Right, exactly. Yes, not passing on trauma to others. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Just so good. And then, like you said, you see people who have let their bodies go, not even realizing perhaps that the subconscious thought patterns are, I'm not good enough, and
exactly, yeah,
I'm unlovable. And then you get into, and when you hold on to that, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I'm less than, what do you think you're attracting to yourself?
Right.
People who will confirm that, situations that will confirm that for you.
Yep. So I am fortunate. I do have a lot of patients who, because they choose to come to me, they are already in a place where they have been working on themselves, and they no longer want to do, the normal medicine that hasn't been working for them. So in a sense, they are already in a transition for themselves. So they're in a better place where I think they're ready to make those changes. But on occasion, I will get some people where you can tell that there is more internal stuff going on based on the external. And that's not based on vanity, it's just the reality of, you have so much going on. We need to take a step back and think, like, what is causing this? Because yes, you may be eating improperly, lack of exercise, drinking alcohol, whatever it may be, but realistically, what is causing that?
Those are all symptom.
Right, exactly. It's based on a lot of internal conflict that they're probably not dealing with.
Right.
So oftentimes I am recommending people to therapy. So I do think a lot of people can benefit from that, and just meditation, and how obviously the energy work that you do. So
Yeah, totally agree.
Yes.
Yeah, because even with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, where you come to understanding that the subconscious thought patterns are held in the physical body. And that's why doing vibrational sound therapy, other energy work, frequency work, listening to sound, that can help let those bubble up to the surface where they can be seen and then re-narrated.
Right.
You know? So,
I agree with that.
Yeah. So good. Oh, so good. Who inspires you?
So I am mostly inspired by researchers and doctors, people who are just very intelligent and up to date with the newest research. So Andrew Huberman from the Huberman Lab, I love his content. I find him very fascinating, just knowing so much information. Julian Brighton, Dr. Julian Brighton, Dr. Mindy Pelz, they're both female doctors who are just very popular. And then when I think back to college days, I had a professor who just remembered everything. She was the smartest woman I ever knew. Her name was Mary Belliet, and she was just so smart. So people like that I admire, just because I wish I could know everything. I wish I could do everything. And so those people, I just could listen to them talk all day.
Wow.
Everything
Did they have specific topics, or was it?
So Dr. Julian Brighton, she is a women's health specialist, so she focuses a lot on hormones. Dr. Mindy Pelz does a lot of work with women and fasting. So I think she works with men too, but she is notorious for working with females and fasting because of the hormonal cycle. So, which I do think is very important, because for females, hormones play a big role in everything.
Just huge.
Right.
Having myself gone through 10 years with of menopause so far. I call it my power surges. Damn.
Yes.
Just damn. It's all good. I welcomed it. Every time I wasn't one of those people who would get a period and be upset. I'd be like, I'm so thankful, because I had 5 children, and coming out of severe anorexia, I was not sure if I would ever be able to have children. My first 2, I miscarried because I just was not eating enough calories, I'm sure. And I just thought maybe I'm not going to be able to. It had been years and years of self-abuse, so I thought, I don't know if this is my destiny. So I was doing the best I could to try to eat, but there was so much fear in all of that. But I did end up having children. So when it came time to, I was had a child nursed until I got pregnant again. So for 13 and a half years, I think I had 1 period.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
It was amazing. I remember when I started having my monthlies again, and I said to everybody, do you guys still do it the same, or do you like plug into a computer? And they're like, no, we pretty much do it the same still. That part hasn't changed.
Funny.
But I was always so thrilled. And then when I got to be about 50 years old, things started to shift, and I was not as regular, and I welcomed it. I was like, okay, so this is the next stage, bring it.
Right.
You
so
know?
that's amazing, because the resistance is only going to make it worse. A lot of women
it's
are like
happening
embarrassed
regardless.
by it.
So
right. So I have a lot of females who come to me because they're going through menopause, and acupuncture can be helpful for that. It helps balance hormones, it decreases stress, and that is super beneficial for any sort of hot flashes, irritability, insomnia. But I always tell them, I cannot take this away from you. Like, this is something you have to go through, but I can ease your symptoms. I can make you feel a little bit better along with what you do at home, because nutrition is also going to play a role.
Huge.
So, and stress relief. So, yeah.
I did not know that about acupuncture.
Yep. Very helpful for hot flashes. Very helpful. Yep.
I'm going to tap you for that one. Do you have a bucket list? And if so, have you checked off items, and do you have any items left?
So my bucket list, pretty much everything is checked off. Maybe just a couple things here and there that are like larger that I haven't delved into yet, but I am a lister in general, so you will find lists in my phone on our...
Come on, girl, right there,
in our living room,
there.
I make lists of
lists of lists.
Right,
That's have a space for me.
Yes.
A blank sheet of paper. I'm like,
I know, right? I know, and if it's not on paper, it's definitely in my head. So just like, okay, I did that. But yeah, so my bucket list, really the big ones were going to acupuncture school, and then being on cruise ships. Opening a business was not actually something I went into acupuncture knowing I was going to do. I never had intentions of it. And we, in fact, were required to do a business marketing class for acupuncture purposes to set up our proposal, like business proposal, if we had to apply for a loan. And thank God that we did do that, because that actually is what helped me get my business. But it was not my intention. So it is something that I have had fun creating and doing, but that was never on my bucket list. So it's just, life is interesting that way. But there, at that time when I graduated, I didn't have job opportunities in the area when I came home from cruise ship. So for me, I just had to do it myself. And so it was just, all right, this is it. I'm going to do that. So but again, right now my bucket list is really just getting a home. Like I feel like once my business really was established and just kind of at a place where I wasn't questioning, you know, should I have a plan B? Realistically, like once I did that, I was like, what now? You know, like really, what now? And so getting married again threw me a curveball, because I just never really thought I would be the type to get married. I just never had found someone that was worth being with for the rest of my life. And so that has changed. And so again, I think creating a bucket list is something on the to-do list at the moment. Seriously, we've been talking about doing a vision board again, because I'm like, I need to do something. Like I don't feel good unless if I am creating, making changes, doing something, keeping it interesting. So yeah, right now I feel like too, I did a lot of traveling years ago, and it's just not at the forefront at the moment. It's so interesting. It's like home life. So yeah, at the moment, bucket list is just get a home. So yeah.
Tell me about the cruise ships. What's up with that? Like I've been on one cruise in my life, loved it. What's this cruise ship thing?
So I don't honestly remember how I got the idea. I was at school, I think, and someone started talking about someone who was practicing on Disney Cruise Lines, and I was like, oh my goodness, I would love to do that, because I had been like fiending to travel. Like we were going through so much schooling that I was just like, I need to live my life. Like it was like important to me to go out there and see the world. So I was thinking like, wow, that would be ideal, because then I could just like make money and cruise and, you know.
Check.
Right, exactly. So it was quite the experience. It's not something I would ever do again. I would cruise as a passenger, but not be an acupuncturist on board. But it was a great learning experience. So I was on the Norwegian Jade, so it's a smaller vessel, and I was on the ship for 7 months. So I lived there, worked there, slept there.
Kidding.
Yes, so I lived on board for 7 months, and I embarked in Germany. And from there, we stayed in Europe. So we did Norway, Ireland, Scotland.
Did you get off at certain ports, or weren't you allowed to do that?
So acupuncturists were a little bit considered higher up, where you were considered a doctor. And so for that reason, we were allowed to get off an hour after guests were going into the port. And so, you know, as long as we were back before them, then we were good. So yeah, it was quite the experience. I did learn a lot for business purposes. So just how to talk to patients was important. And those are things that you learn as you go. But I feel like because I was on the ship, I was required to do that. Like that is what I'm being paid to do.
You were immersed.
Yes. So it pushed me to really just be the best I could be. Like make sure you know what you're talking about. Like make sure you're educating patients and, you know, doing obviously the job properly, which I never was too concerned about that. Like I knew the acupuncture points. I know the safety. It was more about talking to people. So for me, that was a learning lesson, but also just, you know, the thing about acupuncture school is, you know, you learn about acupuncture, but then the business aspect is like, wait, so people don't just heal in one session? And so on cruise ships, it was, you know, you have to come in every single day until you leave, because realistically, like you're not going to be getting this on land unless if you find another acupuncturist. So just really the educational aspect. I would do seminars, so I would be public speaking and just educating. And that is something I do like to do. I enjoy talking about acupuncture and just educating people on how it works.
Well, that segues. My next question is, you know, tell us a little bit about acupuncture. Like I know minimal.
Okay.
You know?
So acupuncture is notorious. Okay, so traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture is the most notorious part of the medicine, but it is a 5-system model. So it's not just acupuncture we do. Oftentimes people will come in looking for a treatment, And then they're kind of surprised at how much lifestyle coaching, nutritional coaching that I'm doing, because that is actually part of the medicine.
Yeah.
So acupuncture is there to help your body heal itself, because I'm not giving anything externally. And so because of that, we have to give the body the right tools, basically, in order for that to work. So the healthier you are, hopefully the more quickly you would respond to a treatment. But if you have a lot going on, like a lot of medications, acupuncture might just be reversing some of the side effects of those. If you're eating poorly and a lot of digestive problems, inflammation, acupuncture is going to be kind of combating that at the same time. So it's just a slower progress, that's all. So if someone's eating properly, exercising, meditating, sleeping well, those are ways to help heal yourself. But then sometimes you need a little extra, and that's where acupuncture comes into play.
How often do people have to come in? I mean, what would be a treatment? What would
Traditionally, and this is not to scare anyone, so typically in China you would actually be treated daily because it is a medicine. So their forefront, like their medical approach is basically acupuncture first, and then you would go to pharmaceuticals. Here it's the opposite. So what they would do is acupuncture every single day, and then from there, if you're not resolving, then you get herbs, and then you possibly will get medical intervention. So here, though, it's not very common, mostly because it is a little bit of an investment, and so we would treat once a week, and then if you're being treated once a week, you can kind of expect that it may reverse in the meantime, in the beginning. So based on studies, I tell people anywhere between 8 and 16 treatments is where you can see long-term results. But again, those treatments are done daily. And so we have to expect this will be like maybe a 2 to 4 month process. And so usually people will see quick results within the first 2 to 3 sessions, where they will reverse though. So you'll see the results, but then it will kind of go back to what it was. But the longer you come, like I've had people with me for a couple years now who started with me, when I first started, and they just love it because they're like, this is the only thing that worked for me. As long as I stuck to it, then they knew that they were going to get better. So it is a process. It's not something where it's one and done. And I think that's the hard part about acupuncture, is a lot of people assume that you just come in for one and then you're good to go. I hear it all the time, like, oh, my so-and-so just got treated for smoking addiction, and one treatment and they were done. And I'm like, well, that puts a lot of pressure on me because I can't do that. Like maybe I can, but I'm not going to promise that. So oftentimes I tell people I minimize results, like I'm here to lower your expectations. And there is a little bit of an effect when a practitioner is saying like, this is very therapeutic, this is going to be helpful for you. And I do say those things, but I also want everyone to be very realistic. Like, this is your body healing itself, and based on where you're at with your health, it may take longer. So yeah, words are important, but also a lot of education and guidance when it comes to that.
And I think the person's intention when they come in, if they are open and willing to continue whatever it is at home as well, and adding, I think that can make a difference also. I know when I do my vibrational sound, people will say, well, I liked it and that was awesome. And I say, look, listen, once a month it's like getting a massage once a month. You brush your teeth every day. You have a meal at least once a day. You take your vitamins every day. This is all part of,
consistency is key with anything you do. And, with life, things reverse. That's just natural. That's normal. And as we age, as things decline, you do have to do more things to maintain your health. And so it's just the reality. Like, we are humans. We have to take care of ourselves. If you brush your teeth every day, you go to the gym, you tie your shoes every day, those are things that you do for yourself. But similarly, acupuncture, sound healing, massage, chiropractic, physical therapy, like I'm always advocating, like, please go to these things, like make sure you're doing these depending on the condition. I definitely tailor it to what someone needs, but realistically, like, I think more of like a 70-30 balance, like making sure that you're eating properly, sleeping well, exercising, and then getting the acupuncture and, do your things at home. And then if you stray and you notice a reversal, then we can kind of expect like, well, yeah, because we weren't eating right, we weren't exercising, we weren't sleeping, so of course it's gonna reverse slightly. So
you actually put these little like pins or something in. What is it that you're touching? What are you doing?
So acupuncture, so the way it works is there are meridians. I do traditional Chinese medicine, so there's a 12 meridian theory. And so I'm finding those acupuncture points, and weirdly enough, you can kind of feel them. There's like a little divot. Sometimes it'll be a little bit replete where it's a bump. So you can measure, but once you're really good, or at least know what you're doing, you don't really have to measure with your hands. But so those little acupuncture points are what they find is actually located near small arteries, maybe even some nerves, and that's why they're so beneficial. So there are points at the ankle that can treat low back pain, or behind the knee that can treat low back pain, and because of the nerve pathway, that's actually why it works that way. Similarly, like there's a nerve in the hand, and there's an acupuncture point in the hand that will treat the head or headaches or sinus problems. And so there is science behind why it works, but the Chinese just discovered it thousands of years ago somehow. So super beneficial. So the needles that I use are very small. There are different gauges, different sizes, lengths, but it depends on where you're needling. So if you were doing one in the wrist, of course, that's going to be a little bit smaller than one that I would do in the glute muscle, like in the buttock area. So they're bendable. They're also rounded instead of pointed, so they're designed to be more painless, but that's not to say someone's not going to feel anything. I'm a very blunt person when I'm explaining acupuncture to people. Like, you should expect to feel something. I am inserting needles, and I'm not saying it's going to be painful. I'm not saying it's going to be sharp. Sometimes you really don't feel anything, but if you do, just know that is what you kind of signed up for, and that doesn't mean it's painful. It's not what people kind of expect. So a lot of times people think of a hypodermic needle, nothing like that. It's not going to be traumatizing. It's actually going to be very relaxing. I talk everyone through it. If you need breath work during it, you can do that, meditate. But realistically, it's so easy. People are like, how many did you put in me? I only felt one. And it's like, exactly, you know. So yeah, and they are sterilized needles. We do not reuse them. I personally use a guide tube, so instead of freehanding it, I tap in the needle. The skin is actually where people feel the sensations, because that's where the nerves are, and so when you tap it in, it's much quicker, and so because of that, you feel less. So the quicker the insertion, the less you feel.
That is so intriguing to me.
Yep. So when I got into acupuncture, I never really even considered the scientific aspect of it. How I mentioned, it helps balance hormones. It helps with certain neurotransmitter levels. So, with serotonin, endorphins, the feel-good hormones, basically. So it's one of the best, and maybe one of the only medicines that actually brings you to a parasympathetic state. So you're in rest and digest instead of fight or flight. It's just a mood booster. It helps really bring people down a notch. So if you're up here all the time and just constant stress, it's a good way to, recover. And then, of course, it helps with pain. So increasing blood flow.
Anything you can do to get that body out of fight, flight, freeze.
Right. So that is, I think, honestly, one of the best parts of acupuncture, because if you are in fight or flight, you cannot be recovering.
Right.
Like if you're not sleeping and if you're always stressed out. Right, exactly.
Right. It's not trying to heal, it's just trying to survive.
Exactly. So the fact that it does bring people into the parasympathetic state, then the body's able to send its resources where they need to go.
Right.
So that's one of the most beneficial parts of it.
Right. That's what I like about the vibrational sound therapy. The same thing is it using frequency, using the vibration, it calms the nervous system, and then the body can heal.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Wow. So, and I think it's just a matter of choosing what works for people, so, and again, consistency, combining things. So, like doing this and acupuncture would be amazing.
Right.
Doing chiropractic and acupuncture, just I always joke around that, I don't know if you follow football, but like Tom Brady, I'm a Bills fan, so don't kill me. Go Bills, go. Don't kill me.
No, I love
Tom
the Bills.
Brady has his team, and that's why he was so good at being a quarterback, because he had his team of providers that made him so optimal. Yeah. And so similarly, I encourage people, like, be a Tom Brady, like get your team, like make sure you have those people on your side that are helping you.
Right.
So So yeah, I mean, it takes money, it takes work. Like you have to show up to your appointments, make the time, but then you feel better, and then you can get through your weeks much more easily.
How young can you do this?
So actually it's for all age groups. So you can be pregnant and get it. You can be an infant. You can be, my oldest patient actually just turned 99 this year.
Nice.
So any age, realistically. So what I do find is that the most people that I treat are probably in their 50s and up to their 70s. And I think that's just because that is where people are going through life, like everything.
Right.
They're not just being born and they're not retired quite yet. So everyone's just going through the grind, the motions, and I think that's when they need it the most.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, I don't know exactly, but a lot of my clients are also in their 50s, and they're starting to experience health issues and saying, hey, I wonder what's going on, and I've got a little bit longer to live, and I don't want to live like this.
Right.
So I think that people are coming in saying, I'm in pain.
Right.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, help.
But I think if we could normalize doing these things prior to the actual onset of disease or illness or pain, or at least at the brink of it before having to go through surgery or steroid injections, try acupuncture first. Like that would be ideal in a perfect world.
Yeah, I agree. In a perfect world, I love to, I say to my children, hey, I'm free, tap me. And once a month, come in and recalibrate your system, get your nervous system to just calm down, because that's what vibrational sound therapy does. It just really calms the nervous system, and do it on a once a month basis.
Yeah. Yep.
As kind of an upkeep. Like you go to the dentist every 6 months, even though you brush your teeth in between.
Right.
You go to the dentist every 6 months to make sure, you get a good cleaning. Preventive is much more, and I think that's Chinese medicine is much more about the preventive care, whereas I think in the West, unfortunately, we're in a place of we're just more, rather than proactive, we're reactive.
Right.
I'm in pain here, and then we try to deal with the symptoms rather than, well, I know this is uncomfortable, but let's get underneath some of this and see what's actually going on.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Or even before any, like even if you're healthy, come for
oh my
these
God,
treatments.
yes.
Right. Like, I mean, yes, obviously to relax, but the health benefits are there. So, prevention is also key. So, just throwing it out there. If anyone's considering acupuncture or sound healing, to definitely try it before you have a reason to. There's no purpose in waiting, realistically. Like, it's just preventing things from occurring.
Yeah, great idea and good suggestion. Thank you. I'm going to tap you because this is so intriguing to me. I'm all in. Last question. What has been your biggest accomplishment?
There are too many, honestly. My husband. I just love him so much. I feel like just marrying him, I feel like nothing else in the world matters, so I'm just good with that. Like, I feel like marrying him was like the best thing in the world. So I feel like acupuncture, I mean, I think I'm meant for it. I think that's something that I'm good at. I feel like my biggest accomplishments are still yet to come. Like, I think there's more left that I know deep down I want to do and should have to do. Like, I feel like I have more to give, so I don't think acupuncture is just it for me. I feel like I'm good at it, and I love people, and that's probably why I do so good at it. But I think I just have more. So I think it's yet to come. Yeah.
I could just sit here and talk with you forever. One thing that keeps coming up as I've been doing my meditations is, things in the world are changing big time. And one of the things that keeps coming up for me is stay in your passion. Live from your passion. And so I was talking to my husband and I said, what is something that you are passionate about? What is something that you don't want to tell anybody, but like you would do this for free? You love it so much. I mean, you do want to get paid, but if you had it, you love it. Like when you do it, time escapes. Like you're just all of a sudden like, I'm outside of time.
Aww.
What is it? And so he was able to tell me for him what it is. He loves to find an old house that's all beat up and refurbish it
Aw,
and then
that's
sell
fun.
it. It
Yeah.
happens to be what he's doing.
Cool.
And so from what I'm gathering, and you know, you hear from spirit and this consciousness within, what I'm sensing is that the more that you do that, the more that you will attract into your life more of that then.
Oh, yeah.
And that's abundance. That's living from a place of joy,
Yep.
you know?
I'm open. I feel like that's the most important. Like, I don't, in my head, just because I'm an acupuncturist doesn't mean that's the end all be all. Like, I think a lot of people just have like the set plan. I actually think I'm pretty open to what the universe guides me to do. So that's why I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's the biggest accomplishment. I do feel like deep down I have like this desire to just talk to people. And when I say that, I feel like public speaking was probably the one thing that brought me the most joy when I was on cruise ships. And I could see myself doing that. Like, that's something I
Really?
feel like maybe that, you know, just even educating people on acupuncture, if that's all it is, you know, it's just talking on a microphone to a lot of people. That gets me going. Like, that gets my energy
That's funny
going
because,
for
you know,
fun.
that's like some people's biggest fears.
I think it's so fun. Just, I don't know why.
It does
I
not
just-
cause you any angst.
I mean, maybe for a moment prior, but realistically, like, they want to hear what I have to say, or they're not even listening at all. You know, if they don't listen, then that's fine. And if you are listening, great. You want to hear what I have to say. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Living from passion. And then the other message that I keep getting is a return to childlike playfulness.
I definitely think that that's important. We had this discussion. Life gets so serious, you know, especially when you're in the grind. And so I think just, you know, remembering that inner child, like, the playfulness is so important, just to have fun in life, in anything you do.
In
also.
anything and everything.
Yeah, right.
I remember when I had my 5 children, one of the things I loved to do, and people were so surprised, is that I would take them all grocery shopping with me.
Aw.
And so we made it an adventure out of it. We made an adventure out of, you know, shoveling the driveway or folding the laundry or whatever. I think that's probably, I'm coming out of just a season of just, I wouldn't say depression, but just kind of nostalgic sadness. And I'm starting to realize how much being with my kids helped me to be a kid then with them.
That's so true. That gave me chills.
Yeah, I'm just getting this revelation now as I'm talking with you, and just, this is what I miss. I miss them, obviously, but I also miss the childlike playfulness that they brought.
That's true.
And I just kind of got into a big, like, serious adulting way of being. And I'm no fun even for my own self to be around sometimes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And
yeah.
so I was like, what the heck? What's going on? And what Spirit was saying to me is, get back to being fun. Get
Right.
back to enjoying life.
Right. Well, you did mention potentially grandchildren, so I'm
I
sure
know,
that
I'm
will
very
bring some
excited.
excitement. Yeah.
Yes,
something
very
like that
much.
will, again, spark that.
Oh, and I
childlike-
can tap the inner child in my own self also, but I think that my inner child was easily tapped being with the kids.
Right. It does take intentional work.
Now
to-
it's more
Isn't that
intentional to be
interesting?
like,
Right.
you know, but I got a Gemini North Node, so Gemini
Oh,
is
really?
all about being a kid. So,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'm leaning into that North Node then of just having a good time and being a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Aw.
yeah.
My husband's a Gemini, so I understand.
We've got a childlike curiosity and sense of humor, and in some ways it can be like, well, it's not that serious.
All right, yes.
You know, so.
It's the double head.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Two sides.
Yep, yeah. So if there was one thing that you would want to end our chat with before you get your vibrational sound therapy session, what would you offer people? What would you say?
I would just say that, well, if this is about acupuncture, I would definitely say if you're hesitating to definitely try it, I would encourage you to find an appropriate provider. So you want to make sure that they are certified, credentialed, over 3,000 credit hours. New York State is actually pretty strict, so hopefully if you find a provider, they do have the education. But if it comes to life, I think that, again, just you are entirely up to you. I feel like a lot of my job is more of that coaching, where it's just getting people into that right mindset of making the proper decisions for themselves, or encouraging them to make those decisions. And so I think that if you can hold yourself accountable and know that there is a human responsibility to take care of yourself, that's what I would like to leave people with. Just take care of you. You know.
Interesting. There's this woman, I just happened to come across her on my YouTube feed today. She has 5 million followers.
Wow.
I don't know what her name is. She's a woman from Sweden, a young person from Sweden. And when she got to 4 million views, she wrote to everybody or did a blog and said, okay, everybody, I want to know what you would say if you had an audience of 4 million people. In about 15 seconds, what would you tell them? And so video me and let me know. And she said she got thousands and thousands and thousands of videos, and boiled it down to a few different messages. But the main message that kind of came out from the whole thing was, be kind.
Aw, that's awesome.
Be kind.
Yep.
Be kind. And I think that be kind, be compassionate, that starts with yourself. And I think it's your message to say, do the thing that is the most kind thing that you can do for yourself, for your family, for the world. And that's take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Yep.
Be proactive in your own care.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. There's this quote that I have over there written, and it says that we each have a part to play in the healing of the world, of the whole collective. And so take a look at what it is that you could do in your own life that would then send a positive vibe out into your own little world that would be exponential, that would be part of the world's healing.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really, really fun to get to know you a little bit more. And as quiet as you are, you have depth and such wisdom. And I'll be blessed to know you for years to come. And
yes.
You know, and I'm excited for all that life has to offer you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We hope that you have gleaned some wisdom from our time together, and we just want you to know how much we appreciate you, how much we love you, how much we care about your energies here, and how much we feel you even from a distance. If Jewel or I can be of assistance to you on your journey, please know that there'll be some links below, and we're here for you. And in the meantime, again, we love you, and here's a hug.